Hello everyone. Today we are going to dehydrate sliced carrots. This is Rebecca from Simple Suburban Living. Okay, now I have about 6.5 or 7 cups of carrots. Kind of depends on where you look at them, but let's just say 6 cups of carrots. I started off with 5 pounds of carrots, but I canned 5 pints of carrots, and this is what's left, and I'm going to dehydrate these. So the process is going to be, well, first of all, I cut the ends off and I peeled them, and I've cut them into about 1/3 inch thick slices. I'm going to bring this pot of water to a boil, and then I'm going to boil the carrots for 5 minutes. And so I'll turn the camera off now because it'll take a little bit of time to bring the water to a boil, and then I'll bring you back when I do that step. Okay, the water has come to a full rolling boil, and I'm going to just kind of put handfuls of the carrots in, kind of hoping not to bring it all the way down if I put in just a little at a time, but it's probably going to actually not matter. So I thought it was worth a try, but I'm going to go ahead and just put all of them in the boiling water. And the book that I am using as a reference is the Dehydrator cookbook by Tammy Gangloff. And she says to, blanch in a large pot of water for 5 minutes and no longer. They are ready when they turn bright orange. So I'm going to just kind of play it by ear, but make sure not to do it any more than 5 minutes. And once they've turned a bright orange color, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain them and put them in ice water. Bring it back when that is done. Okay, so I ended up blanching them just for about 3 minutes. And as I was doing that, I was looking in the book, and it talked about blanching whole carrots and then slicing them. So that's probably what I should have done. But I am happy with how this is done anyway. They're still nice and firm, but they are, I don't know if you can really tell, but they are definitely a nice bright orange color. So what I did is I drained them in this colander, and then I dumped them into a bowl of ice water and let them cool completely, and then I drained them again. So that's where we're at right now, and now I'm going to start putting them on the trays. Okay, so I'm going to actually put them on fairly carefully, meaning I'm going to try not to have anything touching, and we'll see how many trays I need for this. I'll put them fairly close together, but I'm going to try not to have any that are overlapping, because I just think they'll dry a whole lot better if I don't have any overlapping. I'm not worrying about it if they are touching a little bit, even though they'll do better if they aren't touching at all. They'll dry faster. But knowing that they're going to shrink up as we go. So we'll see. I'm going to just kind of load my trays, and then if I have some that are really a little more heavily loaded, then I'll spread them out. You can see that I have slices of all different sizes, and ideally everything is the same size, but obviously with carrots you have the fat end and you have the narrower end, so that's just kind of the way it is. But I went for more or less the same thickness. Actually, this is good. I think that I'm going to be able to spread things out a little bit more than I thought. I'm using just 4 trays for this. And so, and I only at this point have this much left, and I've done 2 trays so far. By the way, I am doing this at night, and so I'm going to put these on to dry overnight. You know, it's kind of interesting because books will tell you, or websites or whatever, how long it should take for certain things to dry, but there's so many variables that you can't really depend on those. But still, even so, I suspect that these will, I'll be doing good if these are done all the way in the morning. So, because it should take about 8 to 12 hours. Okay, and I'm doing my last tray now. And since that first tray, I put them a little heavier and it's on the bottom, that would naturally take longer to dry because they're on the bottom. So I'm going to actually put some of those onto this top one, or switch them around at any rate, so that the one that's more heavily loaded is at the top rather than at the bottom. So let me switch those. Yeah, you can see the difference in like this tray and this bottom one. So I still will probably spread them out a little bit, but I think I'm going to switch things around a bit so that the more heavily loaded tray is on the top. Okay, so now the two most heavily loaded trays I've put in the top two layers. Okay, now I'm putting the lid on, and my dehydrator is the Nesco, and it says to dry fruits and vegetables at 135. The book says to do it at 125, but every dehydrator is different. And so there's nothing wrong with doing it at 125. I mean, it would be fine. It won't hurt it. If anything, it's better. If you're going to err one side or the other, it's better to err on the side of the lower temperature. But at the same time, I think it's good to pay attention to what your manual says. So I'm going to go ahead and set this at 135 instead of 125. And I'm going to just plug it in. And then I'll see you in the morning and show you what it looks like after running all night long. Hello everyone. It is now the next morning and I can't wait for you to see what I woke up to this morning when I came to check on the carrots. So they had been going around 11 hours because I put them on before I went to bed and then was in bed all night and, had my coffee and stuff this morning. And so just now came to check on them. So let me show you what I found. Ta-da! So I'm going to try to put up a picture that I'm going to grab from the video that I took last night. And so you can compare this tray roughly. Now I obviously just moved that, but what this tray looks like compared to what it looked like with all of the carrots. Now, these do feel just a teeny bit pliable. The book that I read said that they would be a little bit pliable. So I'm going to count this as done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a jar and put a lid on it. And it's a way to condition to check to see that they're dried all the way through. I'll make a video about that in the future. But for right now, I just want to put these into a measuring cup so I can see how much they shrunk down to compared to how they started. Now remember, I started off with about 6 to 6.5 cups of carrots, and they obviously shrunk down considerably. So one thing, this is true with dehydrating in general, but I think especially with something like carrots, that I think there's something like 80% or 85% water. You want to talk about being able to store a lot in a small space. Carrots definitely fit the bill. Okay, I'm going to finish taking all of the carrots off of the trays, and then I'll show you how much I ended up with. This one is still spongy, so I'm going to set that aside. It was a bigger piece and it was on the bottom tray, so between the two, it still has some dehydrating that needs to happen. Okay, so let's look at this measuring cup now. I ended up with a little well, about 3/4 of a cup. So even if there was a cup and I started with 6 cups, that would be reduced down, obviously, tremendously. So I'm very excited about that. Think about how many pounds of carrots you could fit in, say, a half gallon or a quart size jar. So this is great for food storage. Now remember that I started with, I'm guesstimating around 2.5 pounds of carrots, and I ended up shrinking that down to about 3/4 of a cup. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you would like this video, and also if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.